Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Mossy Maths, where today we're going through lesson 3 of quadratics. In the previous lessons we've looked at how we can solve quadratics using factorisation and completing the square. And in this lesson we're going to be looking at how we can apply something called the quadratic formula. Hopefully those of you watching this video from AS will be aware of this formula, and this is the quadratic formula. Hopefully you will have learnt this off by heart. If not, then it's very important that you do so as part of the AS course. You will be expected to know this. So the formula is x equals minus b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? And the reason we use this is when factorising and completing the square is not possible. This is another way of solving quadratics. So here's a simple example that you can go through at home. If you already know how to do this briefly, then it might be worth having a go yourself, seeing if you can remember how to do it. If not, I'm going to go through this now anyway. The first thing we do is we have to make this equal to 0. Whenever we're solving a quadratic, it has to equal 0. So, we get x squared minus 4x, the minus 2 can move across to become a positive 2, and this is going to now equal 0. Now, remember this x squared is just the same as 1x squared. So our coefficient of x here is 1, and this is our a value. Our b value is the coefficient of x. And our c value is the number on the end, in this case a 2. So all we do now is we substitute these numbers into the quadratic formula. So x equals minus b. So if it's minus 4 minus, that's going to become a positive 4. Now I should say, it's worth quoting this formula before you even start answering the question. That just shows that the examiner can see exactly what you're doing and that you do know what you're doing. In case you make a mistake later on in the question, you'll still pick up potentially a mark. So we're going to get 4 plus and minus the square root of minus 4 squared, that's going to become positive 16, minus 4 multiplied by our a value, which in this case is just 1, multiplied by our c value, which is 2, all divided by 2 multiplied by 1, 2. So x equals 4 plus and minus the square root of, now 4 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 2 is 8. 16 minus 8 is 8, divided by 2. Okay. Now, the next thing we do here is we simplify this surd. Now, if you're not aware of what surds are, I will be doing a video on it later on in the course, hopefully by this Friday, and that will show you exactly how we can use surds. If you're not sure at the moment, it might be worth looking at another video just to see how you do surds, and now we'll be applying it here. So, it's 4 plus and minus. Now, the square root of 8, using surds, can become root 4 root 2. Now just for this example I'll show you what we're doing. We're splitting the root 8 into root 4 multiplied by root 2. We know that 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, so we're allowed to split this up into 2 individual square roots, 4 and 2, all over 2. Now, root 4 is a squared number. 4 is a squared number, so this is going to become 2. Okay, root 4 is just 2. So we can make this 2 multiplied by root 2. This is how we write it, 2 root 2. All over 2. So our answer then is just this, simplified. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Plus and minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. Multiplied by our root 2. So here's our answer. X equals 2 plus and minus 1 root 2. It's okay to write this as 2 plus 1 root 2 and 2 minus root 2 separately if you like. The exam board will accept that. But we don't have to write the 1 here because 1 root 2 is just the same as root 2. So we can get rid of the 1. It doesn't matter if we write it, but it's a lot better to leave it in this form. There's our answer. Now we're moving on to example 2. If you want to have a go at this yourself, pause the video, I'll go straight through it. Okay? So with this example, it says solve the quadratic equation 3x squared minus 4x equals 8. leaving your answer in surd form. So, the first thing to do, just like before, is to make this equal to 0. So the positive 8 becomes a minus 8, and this is going to equal 0. This is our A, this is our B, and this is our C value. Now, we could quote the quadratic formula, but just because of the space I have here, I'm going to jump straight into substituting these into this. But like I said before, always quote this would be the next stage. So, minus 4 minus, that's going to become a positive 4. Plus and minus, the square root of minus 4 squared, 16, minus 4 multiplied by our A value, which is 3, multiplied by our C value, which is minus 8, all divided by 2 multiplied by our A value. 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. So x equals 4 plus and minus the square root of. Now, 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. Multiplied by 8 is 96. So in here we're going to get minus 96. But we're minusing this minus 96. So it's going to be 16 plus 96. Okay, the two negatives will cancel. All divided by 6. So x equals 4 plus and minus the square root of 112, 16 and 96, over 6. So the next thing we would do here is split this 112 into root 16, root 7. Okay, because 16 multiplied by 7 gives us 112. So we're allowed to split this up into 2 surds. However, 16 is not a surd. 16 is a squared number. So if we square root 16, we're going to get 4. Okay? So this can become x equals 4 plus and minus. Now, root 16 is 4 multiplied by root 7. 4 root 7 divided by 6. So now our answer to this is just this simplified. 4 divided by 6. Now that can be simplified to 2 divided by 3. So we can divide this whole thing by 3 now. This is going to be plus and minus. 4 divided by 6 again. We have another 4, which is once again 2 divided by 3. Root 7. There's our answer. That's the most simple form we can leave this in. It's always worth simplifying a fraction if we have one like this. You may lose a mark if you don't. Okay? So there's our answer. And here's our third example. Once again, if you'd like, you can pause the video and have a go. This one's more relevant in my opinion. The question's definitely more like an exam-styled question. The question says, solve 2x squared equals 4x plus 3, leaving your answer in the form p plus or minus q root r, where p, q and r are whole numbers or fractions. So that's how an exam question would more likely be worded. I've taken all of these examples, however, from an AQA textbook, the latest version of a revision guide, okay? So, in my opinion, this is the best way to learn how we can use the quadratic formula. And with this example, it's certainly more like something you could see in an exam. So, let's get started. Once again, we need to move these terms across to make it equal to 0. So we get 2x squared, positive 4x becomes a minus 4x, the positive 3 becomes a minus 3, and this is going to equal 0. Once again labelling our A, B and C values. Now again we will quote the quadratic formula. Here I'm just going to jump to the next stage. So we get minus B, so that's minus 4, that's positive 4. Plus and minus, the square root of minus 4 squared, 16. Minus 4 multiplied by our A value, which is 2, multiplied by our C value, which is minus 3. Again, there's a double negative here, so this is going to become a positive. All divided by 2 multiplied by 2, that's 4. So we get x equals 4 plus and minus the square root of 16 minus 4 multiplied by 2, that's 8, multiplied by minus 3, that's minus 24. So it's 16 minus minus 24, which is 16 plus 24. So for the sake of space, I'm going to do that in my head now. 16 plus 24 is 40. All divided by 4. Okay? And once again, we have to simplify this root 40. We can split the root 40 up into root 10, root 4. 10 multiplied by 4 gives us 40. So we can split it up like this. And once again, 4 is a squared number. So when we square root 4, we get 2. So this can become 4 plus and minus the square 2 root 10, okay? Square root of 4 is 2, multiplied by root 10, divided by 4. And now the last stage, once again, is to now simplify this to get it in the form that the question asks it. And that's p plus and minus q root r, okay? So 4 divided by 4 gives us 1, plus and minus 2 divided by 4, that's a half, multiplied by root 10. So, just to check that's correct, we look back at the question. P is 1 plus and minus q, which is a half root 10. Now, it does say that it's going to be whole numbers or fractions, which gives us a clue we're going to have a fraction here. So this looks to be the correct format of the answer. So that's the third lesson on the quadratic formula. Hopefully you understand what we did there. If you have any questions, please put a comment below. If you like the video, then please subscribe to my channel. If you're watching on YouTube, then please like my Facebook page, Mossy Maths. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you in lesson 4, where we look at how we can find something called the discriminant. Thanks a lot, guys.